What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a revised version of how I think Judy Hicks is going to be tied into everything going into Scream 5 and how we're going to find out some information about her. Now, this is just how I would do Scream 5. Something about the way that Judy Hicks, I've stated this in the last video I made regarding Judy Hicks, something about the way she was standing in that hallway when she said to Sidney, "You don't remember me, do you?" The way she said it and the way that scene was, and the way they had her standing off in the darkness as she was making her rounds. For those of you who don't remember who I'm talking about, I'm sure a lot of you do, as most of you probably went back and rewatched Scream 4 as they just celebrated the 9th year anniversary of that film. Judy Hicks claimed to have went to school with Sidney Prescott. She was one of Dewey's deputies, and it's that whole ordeal where when she said to Sidney, "You don't remember me, do you?" That just got me thinking that something is off with her, because she seemed a little offended that Sidney didn't remember her, and she just seemed very suspicious after that to me. Like, what is it that you want Sidney to remember so badly? But getting into my theory, so I'm pretty confident, and if I were to do Scream 5, I would have Judy Hicks being the killer, and I'm gonna just go into what I think would lead to her being the killer. So prior to Sidney losing her mother, we know nothing about what she was like. We don't know how she was. We have like just little nods as to what she might have potentially been like, but nothing concrete. We see that she's friends with Tatum, someone who was very outgoing. Tatum was very outspoken. She was more of a party girl. Sidney was more calm, cool, and collected in the first film. She didn't really like to go out that much. It seems to be something that was of course brought on by the passing of her mother. And Billy Loomis even makes a statement about it. She hasn't been the same since her mother died. So I'm willing to bet that that's probably the actual case. Let's say that before Sidney lost her mother, because Sidney herself even stated that she always thought she had the perfect mom, perfect family, until she found out that that wasn't true, of course, and her mom had a lot of issues in regards to sleeping around. Let's say that prior to that, Sidney was just like Tatum. She was very outgoing. She had a little bit of a like a mean streak to her. Not as much as Tatum. As we see Tatum, she has a little bit of a mean streak. We see that in her by the way she responds and interacts with Gale Weathers. Let's say that Sidney and Tatum had a little bit of Gale Weathers in them, and Sidney and Tatum, they didn't directly bully anyone in school, but they picked on a few people here and there. And as we all know, as you remember, Judy Hicks said that her and Sidney starred in a high school play together, the production of Peter Pan, where she played a lost boy and Sidney was Tiger Lily. So let's say that on the production of this, Judy actually ended up, this is how Judy met Sidney and Tatum. This is actually how they met. What I'm getting at here is, and as you saw in the thumbnail, I'm gonna be constructing the theory saying that Judy Hicks had a relationship with Stu Macher in high school. And what I mean by that is, before Stu dated Tatum, before he dated Casey, he dated Judy Hicks. Judy Hicks and Stu Macher, not only did they date their freshman year at Woodsboro High, they actually were middle school sweethearts. They had been dating since 6th grade, and then all the way through up until freshman year, when their relationship was destroyed on the production of this Peter Pan play that Judy Hicks makes mention of to Sidney to try to get her to remember her. And as we all know, in the first film, Stu is clearly a ladies' man. He hopped from Casey to Tatum, but what if he dated Judy at one point prior to both of them? So what I'm getting at is, during the production of that play, let's say during the rehearsals or something, Sidney and Tatum both played roles in the play, and what happened was, during the play, Tatum took notice of Stu, who was in a relationship with Judy at the time, of course. Stu, Judy, Tatum, Sidney all had roles in this Peter Pan play. Every time that Judy and Sidney are on stage rehearsing their lines in front of the teacher or whoever was in the audience constructing the production of the school, in charge of it rather, while they're out there performing their lines, behind the curtains, Tatum's making a move on Stu. Stu, of course, is flirting back with Tatum. Judy takes note of this, and Judy takes note of this, and she actually confronts Sidney about it to try to get her to tell her friend to lay off. Sidney responds to Judy and just says that Stu is a big boy, he can take care of himself. Now from there on out, Sidney could have easily stopped Tatum and talked to Tatum, but she chose to be more hostile about it, or more rude, coming from a girlfriend who just wants her to tell her friend to leave her boyfriend alone. So then after telling Judy that, Sidney just watches as Tatum steals Stu from Judy. And so by the end of this, Sidney is letting Tatum ruin a relationship that Judy has with Stu, a person she's been with since 6th grade. And by the end of it, Stu, of course, leaves Judy for Tatum. Judy's left with a broken heart, because the two, again, have been together since middle school, since 6th grade. Now, the relationship between Stu and Tatum didn't last very long because Stu grew tired of her. Let's just say that. And then after that, during their passings of Judy in high school, Sid and Tatum would just make like snarky remarks to her about how Judy couldn't keep a man, or how Stu knew a real woman when he saw one. That's why Tatum's the one saying most of these things. Sidney's just kind of there as a bystander, not speaking up, which she should have. Tatum is making these snarky remarks at Judy every time she sees her about how Stu knows a real woman when he sees one. That's why he dropped the 5-year relationship, or however long they were together, since 6th grade, 4 years. He dropped a 4-year relationship in favor of Tatum because Tatum to Stu was a real woman compared to Judy. Now, of course, that breakup clearly angered Tatum because she's now taking it out on Judy when she should be mad at no one but herself. She had no business taking someone else's man. And then, of course, like I made mention of, Judy was with Stu since 6th grade. So she, of course, suffered emotionally over the next couple of years or so. And as we know, Stu was friends with Billy Loomis, and around sophomore year 1995, that's when Sidney and Billy started dating. Stu, during this time, was keeping clear of Tatum after they had broken up for most of that. And eventually Stu started dating Casey Becker. Now, during this time, we know Stu and Billy also killed Maureen Prescott while Stu was dating Casey. And this is the event that I'm speaking of that kind of corrected some of Sidney's bad girl habits. But prior to that, Sidney was very much more outgoing. She had a little bit of Tatum in her, but this event is what humbled her and made her more of the good girl, made her more of just a humbled individual who appreciated things more. She appreciated them prior, but she did have a little bit of a mean streak in her. Stu's relationship with Casey lasted up until she gave him a taste of what Judy went through. As we all know, Randy makes mention of this in the first film. Casey ended up breaking up with Stu for Stephen Orth. And then Stu, again, being the ladies' man that he is, in the spring of the moment, wanting some action on the night that she broke up with him, he reaches out to Judy, who was still very much in love with him, and Stu knows that Judy would have given in. And after all this time, she is still in love with him, and they meet up, they hook up one night, and then Judy, thinking they'd get back together, she just couldn't resist. Stu actually, of course, does not end up getting back with her. He is with Tatum, as we see in the first film. Immediately after he hooks up with Judy, he gets back with Tatum. Hence why we see him dating Tatum in the original film. But on the night that he hooked up with Judy, after Casey had broke up with him, he actually ended up getting Judy pregnant during this encounter. And then this, of course, just leaves Judy even more heartbroken. She starts to hate Tatum and Sidney because Tatum is the reason for this in her mindset. And Sidney could have stopped her. Sidney could have easily done what Judy have asked of her. She asked her to tell her friend to back off, and Sidney just said, Stu's a big boy, he can take care of himself. So Judy, who is now alone, heartbroken, and very pregnant, finds comfort in watching Sidney be stalked and tortured by the Ghostface killers over the years. She actually ends up aborting her child because, of course, she can't take care of it alone, and the death of Stu broke her heart even further. No matter how much or how bad he was to her, she just still loved him after all of that. She was in love with someone who was clearly just toxic for her. Judy eventually, of course, got over this, though, and moved on to become a deputy in the Woodsboro Police Department under Dewey, as we all know from Scream 4. She moved past all of that. She no longer held any anger or remorse towards Sidney. But then Sidney returns to Woodsboro in 2010, a la Scream 4, as we all know, for her book tour. And then all of these memories and all of these bad emotions and all these bad feelings start coming back to Judy. She wants to make Sidney pay in some way. She doesn't do anything in Scream 4 because Sidney basically is paying at this point in time because there's another Ghostface killing spree. Sidney doesn't even remember Judy because it was so long ago, and she wasn't the one invested in this. It was Tatum. Sidney was just kind of the bystander who was just not really egging Tatum on, but also like just being her. She was literally just that, just a simple bystander who seemingly could have stopped something from happening if she actually spoke up against what her friend was doing. Now, what I'm going to say here is going to explain where Judy's motives are going to come in. Now, let's say in between the events of Scream 4 and Scream 5, Judy actually ends up meeting a young man around Kirby, who we met in Scream 4, and Jill, Sidney's cousin, who we know has died since Scream 4. She met a young man around their age at Woodsboro Community College in between the events of Scream 4 and Scream 5. This young man is named John Mocker. John Mocker, last name Mocker, same last name as Stu. John Mocker is the younger brother of Stu. He was born a year after the events of Scream, so Sidney and Cole would not have ever known about Stu having a brother, and Stu would have never had a reason to mention said brother. Judy and John bond because John grew up not knowing, but he only heard stories about his big brother, who he wishes dearly that he could have known. All he knows about him is things that the Stab series talks about, because he's going to be familiar with the Stab series. He wishes he could have known him and wishes he could have been there to stop him from being peer pressured into helping his stupid friend Billy commit all these crimes. Judy tells John how she used to date Stu and how he was such a great guy until Tatum and Sidney happened. Judy just basically fills him in on everything regarding Stu to kind of just make him feel a little bit better about Stu, because of the fact that she herself feels bad because now she sees that Tatum and Sidney's actions not only costed her the love of her life, but has also led to the downward spiral of Stu's parents, who haven't been the same since he's died. And they also had another son, who we have now just met, John Mocker. And he has been suffering throughout his whole childhood, watching his parents deteriorate and just mourn the loss of Stu. And Judy just basically feels sorry for him that he had to grow up surrounded by all of that because of the actions of Sidney and Tatum all those years ago. John actually had to watch his parents nearly kill themselves once over the loss of Stu. The parents just have not been the same since they lost Stu, because they just missed their son. And now, in a nutshell, Judy and John, of course, are going to begin to plot the next Ghostface killing spree to get revenge for Stu, and they target Sidney. Now, Judy wants revenge for Sidney ruining her life, and basically she's taking out her Tatum anger on Sidney. And Sidney still could have stopped Tatum from ruining her whole relationship. So she's gonna be taking her revenge out on Sidney for ruining her relationship and ruining her life and and costing her the love of her life, and then killing him years later. And John wants revenge on Sidney because he blames Sidney for not being able to know his brother, and also blames Sidney for being the reason he had to watch his parents rot over his death for so many years. And then things get interesting when Judy learns that John is actually dating Kirby. I want this to be important. If you are confused over the course of this video, I do apologize, but we're just going to keep on going. John is dating Kirby. This is where things get interesting. Kirby is going to be our heroine. She has survived the events of Scream 4. She's going to be the one returning to town, and she will be our new lead character. Now, Kirby has only been with John for 6 months, But John has also been purposely giving out his name incorrectly to not draw attention to the fact that he is the brother of a killer. Kirby thinks his last name is pronounced Masher instead of Mocker. He's also stated that his parents are dead. He's basically just been going to extreme lengths to separate himself from bad publicity because of Stu. John and Kirby don't even live in Woodsboro. They live on the outskirts of town, but John works in Woodsboro at a local bank, so that's why he's there on a regular basis. And he was visiting the community college in Woodsboro one day, handling some business there, which is what led to him running into Judy, and that's how those two met. Now, this is going to be set several years after Scream 4, let's say 5 years. 4 to 5 years. Kirby is now graduated from high school. She's a homicide detective now. Anyway, the plan between Judy and John is to spark yet another Ghostface killing spree, which is going to lead to Kirby being called into Woodsboro, which then leads to Kirby calling in Sidney, Dewey, and Gail, and they can finally act out their revenge on Sidney, which is what this is all going to end up being about in the end when they reveal themselves to her. The plan is going to be what Jill failed to do. As we all know, Jill wanted to get away with it and become famous. They don't want to become famous. They just want to get away with it and frame Sidney. What I would like to see happen is I would like to see Kevin Williamson's original plan for Scream 4 happen, meaning that I feel like the killers in Scream 5, they need to get away with it. And then that needs to bridge into Scream 6, where they will finally be caught, and we can wrap up the trilogy that way. And if anyone's wondering how Kirby's tying into all this, Kirby's tying into this because of the fact, again, she's dating John, who is secretly the brother of Stu Mocker. And what's going to happen here, the opening kill of Scream 5 should be Kirby's mother. That's how she's going to become invested in this. She wants to find out what happened to her mother, who killed her mother. The opening kill of Scream 5 is going to be Kirby's mother. This is going to spark her to come to the town of Woodsboro. She's going to be assigned to the case to investigate and figure out what happened. That's how that's going to factor in. And John, Stu Mocker's brother again, he's going to be killing Kirby's mom for a reason that he will explain once he reveals everything to Kirby. So let's just say for now there's some bad blood between John and Kirby's mom. For whatever reason, I do not know. Maybe she didn't want him to be with Kirby. I'm still working on this theory. It's all still a work in progress. But let me know what you guys think about that down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. In the description, I'll have links on my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there to let me know if there's any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. With all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.